We've already mentioned on the homepage, we're missing a section for blogs, like we're going to show off 3, but we don't even have any posts built. So let's go and get those built into WordPress first. When it comes to building your posts, you want to be doing it within WordPress. But when it comes to presenting it, that is done with Elementor. In fact, we'll be using an Elementor template known as a single post template. But the raw ingredients for that post should be done over here. And this is what you should do. And you got to get your head around this, okay? Because we tend to say build everything in Elementor. But the post, the title, the images, the content, just do it here. So let's click add new. And we're going to create a post. I've called it Hiking Adventure. Now adding content is really simple. You can either start typing over here, or you can use the block over here. Well, you can add a block and you might say, I'm going to add in a paragraph where we already are, or I might want to go in and add in an image instead. You select an image and add it. My tip when you are doing posts is that you try and add in as much variable content as you can. Don't just have text. Add in images. If you can add in audio, go for it. If you can add in video, go for it. The more richer you make it, the more Google do like that kind of thing. For simplicity, I'm just going to drop in some lorem ipsum text like that. And then down here, I'm just going to go and add in another image. So I'm going to hit the plus sign, click image. I'm going to then just pick an image from our media library. I'm honestly not overly fussed by what we pick here. I'm just going to go for this one, okay? Just to kind of demonstrate how easy this is to use. I'm going to shrink the image down like that. And I'm going to click the align feature here, or the setting, and align this to be in the center. So you can add images and you can resize them. Ensure that you have assigned a category. So I'm going to click add new category and I'm going to give this a name. And once you've hit return, it will automatically tick it. You can untick it if you want and assign elsewhere. But I'm going to be adding to these as we go on. You can add tags as well, so maybe you want to be very specific. You might put the Highlands or the Rocky Mountains or something like that. The other key bit is a featured image. This is going to be important for when you are showing off your blog posts, like the little advertiser for the archive, before you actually read it. So go and pick a relevant image. And it's not a bad idea to put in an excerpt as well. Now, you don't have to do this. This isn't completely relevant, but if you are going to give across like an excerpt or a short description before they start reading the post, this is a good thing to go for. I'm just going to drop in some more lorem ipsum over there. And believe it or not, that's mainly the bulk of what you need to do. I'm going to hit the publish button. There we have our post. Now, what I'm going to do for simplicity is I'm going to duplicate this by using the duplicate page plugin, which I mentioned earlier as well, just because I want to speed up the process we're doing here. Go over to my posts, and now I just duplicate and I duplicate again. I'm now going to go into them and change their image, the featured image and the title. I'm not going to change the body because I just want to get across how this works. I'm going to show you what I'm doing just so you understand it better. I'm going to call this one Rocky Escapes, which sounds like a movie, but it's not. I'm going to leave the content as it is. Over here, I'm going to add in a new category, and I'm going to call this one Mountain Climbing. Hit return. Untick Adventure, because that's the new category. And down here we have an image. I'm going to click that and pick something else. Obviously you change your excerpt as well if you wanted to, and then just go and hit publish. So I've gone and created 6 posts, and you can see that they all have different categories. Well, there are 1, 2, 3 for adventure. We have a lifestyle one. We have scenery, and we have mountain climbing as well. And if you ever want to create them, rather than creating them on the fly, you could also go over here to categories and go and add in your new ones as well. And you can see how many posts I've got, and I've got 0 for uncategorized. This will become quite important when we come to do some filtering for the posts. As of right now, these are all ugly looking, but we don't really care too much about that massively just yet. What we're going to do is create a page, and we're going to drop onto there a loop grid that is going to basically be the archive page for our posts. And then we're going to stick a copy of that onto our home page, but it will be slightly condensed. Let's go and tackle the blog page first. I'm going to go over to templates. Make sure you've clicked all to make sure you haven't already got one in existence. I'm going to click add new, and I'm going to create a template called archive. Okay, click that. And then I'm going to call it blog archive. Now, the word archive is quite important because I'm going to create a blog archive. And then I'm going to create a blog page, which is an exact duplicate because that's the page I'll actually be using. And then we'll use a copy of that on the home page. So let me just go and create the template. Again, Elementor's really good at giving you some examples that you could use, but I'm just going to build one the way we want to build it. We have our header and we have our footer already activated. I'm going to take the container from our privacy policy page and I'm going to dump that in over here. Again, you're just reusing elements that you've already built before because it's got our header and we've done our responsive styling for that. Now we're going to build our post archive. Now, the most common way to build it is to drag in the archive post, and arguably that looks okay. You mean it's quite standard, but it looks absolutely fine. Or you might decide to use the posts feature instead, or widget. So if you go and type in posts, it's this one over here. If we now drag that in, again, it's practically the same as the archive post. The only benefit of the post widget, though, is that you now have the option to use query. And this is where you can include or exclude certain categories or certain terms. With the archive one, you don't get the query tab, and you really do need the query tab if you want to have full-on control over how your posts look. The only drawback to using the loop grid, the posts feature widget, or even the archive posts one, is that you are very limited as to what you can do here. You can, change the image sizing and move some of these around, like in terms of their distance from one another, how close they are, but that's about it. What if you want the header to be above the image? You can't do that. What if you want the header to be on the image? Again, you can't do that. But that is why the loop grid is so much more powerful, because now you can build out the archive or the blog pages how you want. So what we're going to do is go here and type in loop, and we're going to bring over the loop grid. As soon as you do that, you get a slightly funny layout here. Don't worry, we're going to create a template, and then that's going to be used to home or house our blogs. I must point out though that to get the loop grid to work, you must ensure that you are using the Flexbox container in your Elementor features. Nested elements, you don't really need that, but I would recommend you have that activated. Make sure the loop is also active down here. Back on our page, we are going to create a template. Let's hit save. Now this is almost weird in a way, in that it now gives you a new look to it, and it's now saying, well, what do you want to create? You're going to look at this and go, but I can't see how many posts. I can't decide if I want to have 2 columns, 5 columns, 20 rows or whatever. Don't worry about that. You will do all of that when you hit the button save and back, and you're now back on your original page with the loop grid. At the moment, you're inside the loop grid. So what we're going to do is create a design. I want my blog post to be very similar to the style we did on the homepage, where we had the call to action widget and we had the text over the image. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to click here and we are going to insert one container. Okay, one container. I'm going to add into there the call to action widget. And I've also just zeroed out the margin and padding of this container as well, just so that everything sits fully in. I go over to my call to action and I'm going to turn this into a cover so the text is over the image. I can be really cheeky where I reuse some of the content that we already worked on. So I'm going to go back to our homepage and I'm going to copy this particular call to action that we've already built, go over to our blog one, and I'm going to paste the style like that. And we now have the style. Bear in mind though, it doesn't look exactly the same. Okay, so if I just go over here, go and change the width to be a full width like that, we now have it back. Bear in mind though, this is bringing over more than I actually need. I mean, it's got the title, it's got a box there for the excerpt if we wanted to show the excerpt, which I won't, but we also have a button. I'm actually going to get rid of a lot of stuff we have here. The only reason I did it was so that it brought through the paddings and the sizing. Because I'm going to show it on this page, I want it to be quite consistent with the look that we have here at the moment. So let's go over to our image first. And rather than picking an image, because if you pick an image, that image will repeat for every blog post. We want the featured image that we set per post. And this is what you do. When you hover over here, you'll see what's known as a dynamic tag or a stack, that little symbol. You click that, and then you go and pick featured image. That will now bring over the featured image. Literally, that's what it does. I'm also going to change the image size to be full like that. Let's go over to the content. I don't want a heading, and I don't want to have a description either. Don't worry about the fact that it's all of a sudden shrunk, because it will revert to its proper size when it's brought over back into the loop grid. What I do want to change though is the button. So I'm going to go over here and get rid of the word click here. Of course, everything now disappears. Again, stay with me on this. I'm going to click the dynamic tag, and instead now I'm going to pick the post title. I don't have to pick read more or anything like that. I can just go for post title. That will now bring over the post title. But I am going to click the spanner or the wrench, and I'm now going to say after the word, I'm going to have space with a bit of a symbol like that. So now we get that. So I'm basically implying, look, click here and now you will go onwards. But I need to tell it where that button needs to go. So where you have the link, again, click the dynamic tag, and there you will have post URL. That will now say that when you click that, you're going to go to the actual post. And if I hit save and back, you will now see how it looks, and you can see it. We've only got 6 at the moment. We got the image and we got the title. Now, if you feel this looks a little bit lackluster and you wanted something a little bit better than that, if I was to hit edit templates, now I go back into the template. And by the way, once you've saved it, when you go back into edit, you will now see more than one post. Don't get worried. You're not in the wrong area. This is normal. Save and back means you go back so you know where you are. You might want to extend what we have here. So how about I go and drop in a text editor widget, and I'm going to drop it in below like this. It now sits below my call to action, but it is still within that particular container. I'm going to go here and I'm going to give this a bit of sizing. So I'm going to say give me about 20 for the left, so it's in line with the button. And I'm going to say from the right, give me about 20 as well, like that. I'm going to go to the content, and rather than having these words, I'm going to hit the tag again, and I'm now going to say give me the post excerpt. And now what you should get is that lorem ipsum wording that I put in there. I'm going to go to my style. I'm going to very quickly stylize it. I'm going to go with an REM of 1. We'll keep it quite small. And then underneath that, I'm actually going to drop in the post info. I'm going to get rid of the comments, but you know what? In fact, we'll get rid of the time as well, but I will leave the date. I'm going to click that. I'm going to say there's no need for an icon. Give it 20 pixels from the left. I'm going to go to my container, and at the bottom of the container, I'm going to add in about 20 pixel margin or padding at the bottom there, just to space things out a little bit. So if I was to now go and hit save and back now, you're going to get a slightly different look in. Obviously, it's the same excerpt because I didn't really change it, but you get the idea. And the last thing we're going to add is in the category. So I'm just going to duplicate what we have here at the moment with the text editor, go to the top one, go to content, and where we have the post excerpt, I'm going to hit the X, hit the dynamic tag, select post terms, hit the spanner or the wrench because nothing appears at the moment. And I'm now going to go for category. If you want to go for tags, you can do, but category makes more sense here. We'll leave a separator in case there was any item in there. Now, at the moment, our link is a pinkish color. But if you were to go to the style for that, the pink color or the purpley color is not there. So how do we change that to be our brand color? Hit the hamburger, go to site settings, go to typography, and down here you will now have your link color. So if I go here and I now pick, say, this purple color instead, once you've saved all that and you're back into your loop grid over here, if I click it, I have the option over how many columns I want to show. I mean, the more you have, the worse it's going to look, but you can even have just 1 if you want, or 2. I'm going to go with 3. I'm also going to have 6 items per page. You do have the option to kind of like, depending on the types of images you got, maybe you've got a mixture of horizontal and vertical. The masonry effect can work for you as well. And if you find that you've got various different heights, like some of your images have got a really big title, sorry, not images, some of your posts have long titles or long excerpts, then the equal height can really work well for you. But like I said, the query tab is really powerful. So you might decide to go with, I'm only going to show certain categories here. So I'm going to say include by term, or you could exclude as well. So you might want to exclude a certain category. And I'm going to type here, adventure. And when I pick it, it will only show me the adventure ones. I'm going to get rid of that because I want to see everything. Also, you can decide how you want to set the dates for this. So you might want to go in ascending order or descending order. I'm going to go for ascending because that's the order I went and created things at the moment. You can also adjust the spacing as well. So if we go to style, I might say there is 0 gap between all of the columns like that. And that looks quite nice because it kind of fits the style we've been doing on the home page. Or you could increase it and make it much wider. The same with the rows as well. Now, even if I set this to be 0, because we added in some padding to the bottom of the container, it's never going to be right up against it. And that was the reason I did it. Or if you want more gap, you can increase it. I think that actually looks really smart with how it's laid out at the moment. So it's 0 gap there. Everything looks okay because it sits within the container, the 1100. But what about when we get to the mobile? Let's just go and view that. Again, the mobile looks fine. And even though the text is brand new, it looks okay. So all you got to do now is have a think about and go, well, is this definitely the style you want to go for? Now, I think these items are too close to one another now here. On the desktop, it worked. On the mobile, not so much. So let's just hit edit template. Let's go to our container. And for the mobile, 50 like that. So the content feels more closer to what is above. And if we go back to our mobile, well, our desktop, it is still okay. Let's now hit update there or save and back. I'm sorry, save and back, and then you hit your update. I'm now going to go and set the display conditions for this. The condition is going to be, this is visible for all archives. Now you do get to decide, is this just for post archive or category archives or anything like that? All archives makes total sense. You could, if you want, create 2 completely different looks. In fact, you don't even have to do 2. You could do 20 different looks. And you might say that this particular archive is only relevant for any posts where they have the word adventure as their category. And then you have a different one for lifestyle. And then you have a different one for mountain climbing. That's if you want to do that, because it might be that maybe you've got jewelry. You might have a certain look for rings, bracelets, bags, things like that. We're just going to go for all archive and hit save and close. Now, before we go and create a separate blog page, and I'll explain again why am I doing it in 2 different ways here. On the current archive one, make sure you set this to be current query. The idea is that if someone goes and clicks a link like the category, they will end up here on this page, which basically does not have any filtering enabled for it. This is just like a landing page for your blogs, okay? But the real blog page will have a filter system on there, and I'm going to show you how to do that with the Gridbuilder WP plugin. It is a premium plugin, so if you want to use any other tool, please be my guest, but the really good ones tend to be premium, okay? So let's just copy this entire container. Okay, just hit update, so that is now closed down. Go over to pages, click add new, and I'm going to call this one blog, and then edit with Elementor. Again, I just want to reiterate, okay, on the archive one, make sure that when you get to the query tab, you have it set as current query. Otherwise, if someone clicks lifestyle and then they end up over here, it won't follow through the word lifestyle, so make sure you do that. Now we're on the actual blog page. We are going to get rid of the title like this, and I'm now going to paste in what we've already done. I'm going to leave the title as well as it is. I'll then click on the loop grid, and over here now for the query, I'm just going to leave it as posts like that. I don't need to set it to current query. Posts is fine. And then I'm going to hit publish. That's how easy it is, okay? That's all I had to do. What I need to do, though, is add in my filtering system. So let's go and do that by adding in a premium plugin. There'll be a link in the video description for you to go and get this. I'm not going to lie to you, okay? It's not cheap. It is $49 per year per site, but it is super powerful and really, really good when you're doing WooCommerce as well. So I'm kind of using something that works for loop grid posts and Loop Grid products WooCommerce as well. And once you've got it, you do need to install it and activate, and then you need to download the Elementor extension. This is free that you get once you've subscribed or you've got the premium version. This is what you need to add in the widget. There are other ways to do it by using short codes, but this is the much better way to use it. What you do is go to Gridbuilder on the left over here and then click on all facets. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a filter which is just for the categories. I'm going to say create a facet, call it categories, and just make sure you got the same name for the facet name and the facet title. Hit save changes. Then I'm going to go to behavior and I'm going to go for a filter and I'm going to go for buttons because I do quite like the way the buttons look over here. I'm then going to scroll down and make sure the taxonomy is definitely using the categories. I don't need to include or exclude anything. Do we want to show any that are empty? No, I think not. Do we want to show how many posts there are? Maybe that's not a bad idea. So if there's 3 for adventure, you can show there's 3. If there's only 1 for lifestyle, that might not look so bad. That's how quick and easy it was, okay? Just like that. Let's now go back over to our blog page. I go back to my widget and I'm now going to type in facet and there it is. And that's what you get with the Elementor add-on. Then I'm going to set it by clicking here and picking categories because that's what we've just created. If I'd called it postcat, you would pick postcat. And now I'm going to select my loop grid. Now, if you're a little bit unsure, maybe you've got 7 loop grids on your page, just go over and click the loop grid. Go down to where it says WP Gridbuilder and it will actually give you the ID field over here. So A948. And if we go back over to here, there it is. So let's just now pick it. And that will now very quickly bring through the items. I don't actually like having the title there, so I'm going to go over to my typography and I'm going to set that to be a 0. I could modify the look of it even further if I wanted. I go to my choices and make them be more square. I can make the borders around them be thicker or thinner. I can even go in and modify the typography for the item. So most likely you would go in and go with railway, and then you're going to set your size. So you might go with, set that to be REM. So when you hover over it, we'll go for a white color like that. So it's a little bit clearer on what you're picking. By moving the filters higher up with a -50 margin, and I've added in about 10 from the bottom, just to give me a little bit of spacing. And just to show you how good this is, if I pick scenery, you get scenery, you go for adventure, you get 3, mountain climbing, or you pick all. That is really, really slick and wonderful to use. But let's just make sure it looks okay on the mobile. So let's just go and pick it. And that looks fine. I mean, bear in mind, though, it is going to wrap because of the length of the wording, unless you were to make them ridiculously small or you had much shorter categories. So if mountain was just 1 word or climbing, that would have fit over there. But again, it just works and looks really, really good. Why don't we go and add this now? Entire loop grid to our home page as well. So I'm going to go over to my home page and I'm going to copy it. Well, I'm going to copy the loop grid. I go back to our home page, scroll down until we get to here, hit the plus sign, and now I'm going to paste in our loop grid. Make sure the container it sits in is 1100 because we've pasted it in. Make sure it is zeroed all out so everything is up against one another. Then I'm going to click the grid and I'm now going to change the layout of this to only actually show 3. So on the blog post, you get 6 or 9 or 20. The blog archive is where you're going to land if you were to go and click on a particular category. But on the actual homepage, this is what you will see. And when I double check in the mobile, it looks absolutely fine because we've already checked that. Let's go over to WordPress, go to our menu in Appearances. The blog is now there, so let's add that to our menu. Let's hit Save Menu, and now let's go and view our site as it is now. So you can see here we've got our menu, our header without the logo because we've got 2 different logos. You scroll down and you got your nice, I think that's a really nice layout we've got there. If I click on any one of these, it's going to take us to the post. Now, bear in mind, the post you view is going to be really ugly because we have not done the single post template yet. So let me just show you what would happen if you hit Hiking Adventure. Whoa, I know, really scary, right? And just to prove it works, Rocky Escapes, look, it's working fine. The image there is the same because we left the content as it was. But what would happen if you were to now go and hit Adventure? It will take you to this page, the blog archive page, which has just adventure. Look, let me prove it. If I hit scenery, you're only going to get one post, the scenery post. But if we go now all the way back up to the top over here and we go to blog, this is the proper blog page. And if I now go like that, we can start to manipulate or jump around with what we're viewing, okay? So that's the reason why I had the blog archive page, which is where you go if you're now going through a query-driven route. If you just want your standard blog page, well, here it is with the filter system. And on the home page, well, we just have 3 posts that I'm showing you at the moment, which I think is pretty nice and easy to look at. I mean, what do you think? Do you like it? Do you like the changes we've done? And yes, we did a bit more than maybe you thought you had to do, because maybe you just set up an archive page and you never thought beyond that. But think about a good filtering system to make it a much nicer, user-friendlier experience for anyone looking at your website. The only thing we haven't done is created a single post template, and we're going to do that. And we're also going to create a sidebar as well, just to make it jump and feel more nicer. So let's get on to that right now. So there's going to be 2 stages. First one is the single post template, and then inside of there, we're going to create a sidebar. Now, you may have noticed if you are using the Hello theme that you don't get a sidebar widget. With other themes, it does come available, but you can build it on the fly inside of Elementor and Hello very, very easily, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to go over to templates first. Remember, hit the all. Now, we do currently have 7 templates. We have 2 headers, we have a footer, we have the 404 page, we have the blog archive page, but we also have Elementor loop item #209. That is the loop grid, and we've basically reused it in 3 different locations. So you don't have to create it 3 different times. Just keep reusing what you've created. Now let's create our single post template. Let's click add new, go over here and pick the single post, which is just it. Don't make the mistake of clicking single page. Just go for single post. Then be really creative with your naming, which is single post template. It's simple, and I know what it is. Elementor does give you, I have to say, some really nice styling. You know, what they give is pretty nice, but we're just going to create one from scratch as we've been doing forever. I'm going to use our about page as a template for what we're going to do here. So I'm going to go over and copy the entire container, go over to our single post template and hit paste like that. I am going to get rid of the padding that we've got at the top there. I'm going to reduce that down to be about 10. So we still have something, but it's not completely there. I'm then going to click the header, which says about. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm then going to just click out of here. Sometimes you have to click out of it to see the dynamic tag. So I just want to show you that again. If you've got words, then you delete the words. It doesn't always show you the tag. So come out of it, go back in, and you'll see the dynamic tag there. I'm going to click that, and I'm now going to go for post title. And then I'm going to get rid of all of the content we have inside of here. To be honest, but I'm not sure why I even brought that over. I've got to be honest, because I'm actually not really using much, just the header. But what we do have is a container. This container is set as a row. I'm going to set it to be at the top at the moment like that. And we do have a wrap functionality in here as well. I'm going to add in another duplicate container like that. So what we now have is, just to look at the structure, we have container and header, and then we have 2 child containers inside. The parent container, I'm going to set that to be a row like that. So you can now see what it's doing. I'm also going to set it to be wrapped like that. So now everything is wrapped, but now it almost looks like it's gone back to a column structure. I'm going to go to the heading, and I'm going to say make the width of this be 100%. Go all the way across. Container number 2, though, I want you to have a full width, but I want you to be 50% like that. Now it just puts it side by side. I'm going to go over to this first container, and I'm now going to increase the size of it, and I'm going to set it to be 75%. I'm then going to set the other container to be 25. So we got 75 and 25 to make 100. Remember, the width of this is set to 1100. Into the very first container, I'm now going to drop in post content. You can drop in a text editor and select that, but just dropping in the post content does make things a little bit easier. So here we now have our content added in. If you had gone and applied any colors or styling to your text, in your block editor, it would have brought it over. But I tend to say don't go too crazy on that, because we're going to go in over here and we're just going to make sure the typography is set to a 1.2 REM like that, and we're going to make sure the letter spacing is a 1 as well. I'm also going to create a bit of spacing in this container. So still on container number 1, I'm going to go over here, and on the right hand side I'm going to say give me about 50. So we are using 75% of the estate, but we're going to have a bit of 50 pixel gap over there. I'm going to go in with about 30 from the top as well, just so we're not pushed up right against the header. Now you can add in further items to sit within this container. If you go over to the widget, if you want to add in comments, if you want to add in a table of contents. So every time you have a H3 header on your post, if you used it in your block editor, you could use table of contents. I've got a video on that if you want to go and watch that as well. Over into this container, for consistency, I'm going to just do a 30 from the top again, just so that things sit in line with the wording that we have here. I could drop in the post info at the top over here. We'll get rid of the comments one. Time, not so bothered about that. If you want to show the author, you can do. If you want to add in the post excerpt, you can as well. I'm just going to add in a little bit of spacing here between the elements. And you could also add in the featured image. So we could, if we want, straight after the header, go straight into the image over there. Remembering that the container that we just copied over already has the 20 pixels for the left and right, and that is looking okay. Yeah, that's looking absolutely fine. Be a good idea though to save this before we do the sidebar. So I'm going to hit publish, add condition, and I'm going to say that this is going to be visible for all singular. Now I would probably say go and pick posts as well, just to be on the safe side. I've seen people just do that, and you can get away with that, but you're better off defining, is this for per category, per tags, or anything like that? But just say it's for all posts, and just make sure it is set to all as well, and hit save and close. Like I said, better safe than sorry. Now, what are we going to be doing over here? Remember, this is a 1000 by 100 width, and we know that this is 25% of that. Let's go back over to our WordPress, go to templates, and we're now going to create a new one. We are using containers, by the way. Sidebar, yeah, sidebar, and then we're going to hit create template. I'm going to hit the plus sign, and I'm now going to pick a container, which is column. I'm going to set this now to be a certain size. 275 is 25% of 1100. This is where the sizes you pick can be your friend. The minute you go for like 1111, then you now start playing with decimals. But this is the size of our sidebar that we currently have. To help us out, I've actually gone back into my social page. And by the way, I've got these browsers open in my window. I'm going to copy this image, go over here, and I'm just going to paste it. I'm duplicating stuff I've already done. I'm going to pick up this heading, and we're going to pop it in over here as well. Paste, and I'm going to move it to the top like that. I'm going to change this to be about Sarah like that. Copy this little bit of text over here. Let's just drop that in below like this. I love exploring the great outdoors. Let's just check the size of that. That was a 1.1. I'm going to drop it down to a 1. I've also dropped that title down to be a 1.2. What about the contact form? Okay, you know what? Let's go and grab that as well. Let's just modify the form. And I'm actually going to get rid of the name and get rid of the email. I'm going to make sure that this is set to be a full width like that, so it goes all the way across. I'm going to set the button to actually be full width as well. I know I said I don't like that style, but I am going to do it here. I'm going to go to the form, go to the form field, click the email, and I'm going to change the placeholder from email to subscribe like that. Go down over here now to where we have the button and change the word send to subscribe. I'm going to reduce the font over here just to be in line with everything else that we've got. Now, if you're using a service like MailChimp or MailerLite or ActiveCampaign, you need to go there and get your API key from them or ID. And then what you would do is when you come to actions after submit, you would come here and you might go with, say, MailChimp. You'll have an option down here. And what you then want to do is get your API key entered and then go and get this to be connected over to your group or however you've set it up. So every time someone fills that in and hits the subscribe button, it adds it to your mailing list. I'm now going to drop in a loop grid. Now we are going to have a slightly different one. Be careful though, don't just go over here, say to your home page, copy this over and then modify it. Because if you modify it, it will modify it for every single page. Now, I used it on the blog archive, the blog page, and the home. I can get away with that. But if you were going to have a completely different look for them, create a separate loop grid. So over here, I've now got a loop grid. I'm going to go to my home page. I'm going to hit Edit Template. I'm going to copy it, but I'm not overwriting it. I'm then going to completely copy what we have here. So I'm just going to copy the container. Okay, copy the container. Just hit save and back so everything stays intact. Go over to my sidebar, and here I'm now going to hit create template. So we create a brand new template. I will now paste over here. And what I'm now going to get is the same as what I had before, but I'm going to modify this to make it easier for me. I'm just going to hit save and back. I know this feels like a little bit of back and forth, but you'll understand why. Once you've done that, now you can go in and select your column. So I'm going to change that to be 1x3 or 1x4 even. We'll go with 1x4. I'm then going to go and edit the template because now it's easier for me to see. Because before it was stacked into like, well, not stacked, it was aligned into or inlined into 3 columns. Now I'm going to modify this. So I'm just going to kind of do something like this. Yeah, something like that. And then what I will also do is just check that looks okay. That looks fine. We hit save and back. So now we have a different style for our posts over here. Can you see here? We've now got a slightly different. They are still quite big in size. And you might want to modify that. In fact, I think we should modify it. Let's go over here to our call to action widget or whatever we're using. Let's edit it. Let's go to our style and let's adjust the height. So let's make it be about, I think we should go with the 150, something like that. That looks okay. Let's hit save and back. And I'm going to go over here and I'm now just going to pick up this header, duplicate it, add in a bit of spacing from the top there. And we'll go with something like about 40 like that. So it's just a little bit spaced out. Change the title to be other posts. We'll also click on the query or the loop grid. Go to query and down here, you want to click on the word exclude and then you want to say avoid duplicate. So what you don't want, if you're reading a post, you don't want the same post to appear here as well. We then hit publish. And in essence, we've just created a sidebar. Let's just double check how this looks on the mobile. Really important this, all right? Always do this. Don't just rush past it. What you're seeing is a very extended look of it, all right? But it's going to be sat below the post, okay? So there we have our wording. The wording is fine. You might want to make that a little bit bigger. I mean, I would say, about Sarah. No, 1.2. It's okay, actually. It's 1.2. The image there, other posts, you got your wording, and we've got now, we've got the form, which is down here. Do you remember why? If you're paying attention, you'll remember why if you've been watching these videos. If you go to advanced, we had set an order on the contact form. Get rid of that, and it will now sit in the right place with where it needs to be. Have a think about your layout. Does it need to be more spaced out? Anything like that. I'm going to go with a 10 there. I do think for the purpose of the mobile, I'm just going to go into this container, zero everything out, and then go with a 20 and a 20. It makes sense, doesn't it, for the layout in terms of how it looks. Let's now hit update here. Here's now where we're going to add that to our single post page over here. But what you don't do is copy this over. Okay, you close this page down and go over to templates, and you will now see sidebar, and you will now have a shortcode here. Copy that shortcode. The reason why I'm doing it this way is that if you were to now copy that and paste it into your single post template, we are going to go and grab a shortcode. And into the field, we are now going to add in that bit of the ID for it that we had before. Then we are going to hit update. And this is what you get now on the right-hand side. we now have a sidebar with a subscribe option. If you want to go out and check out this person, by the way, remember it opens it in a new browser window. You can do so. And one final thing we will add over here is the share icon, because this will take you, these social sharing icons that we have here, they're going to take you to the page, Sarah's page. But I want someone to share this on their own social media profile. So we're going to go and grab the share icon and we'll drop it in. I think just over here is not a bad idea. So it's just, you could go above the excerpt if you want, or however you want to do it. You have various options there. You can go for icon and text. You can go just for icon. You can go for text as well, whatever you want to go for. I think icon text works quite well. I'm not going to stylize these out, mainly because you will get to pick and choose how you want it to look, in terms of, are you going to add in like pins? By the way, look, if I click here, you do have a range of options: Pinterest, Reddit, WhatsApp, email. You even have a print option. So if you want to allow people to print it, let me just go and put it as 4. Let me change it to be a flat image, something like that as well. So maybe you're doing blog posts about recipes or menus and you won't be able to print them. You can do all of that. Just to complete things, I'm going to drop in a text editor over here. I'm going to change this to be share. Just going to add in some negative margin like that, just so we have it sat above. You could make it in line if you want, depending on how many items you have. And always check, how do things look on the mobile? You might need to adjust a bit of the margin. I mean, over here, make sure you've gone and selected auto for the column so it aligns things a little bit better. You can change the style of it how you want, but I think left align just works pretty well. Go and view our website now. If I was to now hit hiking adventure, this is the page we come to with our sidebar and our information. If we were to go back and instead we went over to the blog page and we clicked on surreal surroundings, the image, the wording, you got your sidebar. It all looks really, really good, or at least better than what we had before. We've improved the homepage with the blog bit. We've got a single post template to make things look much nicer. We've got a sidebar that has a subscribe option as well. And we're doing all of this within the tools that we're using. Now, I accept that I have said you got to get another premium plugin if you want to have the filtering system with the blogs. But if you're not bothered about that, you don't have to do that, okay? But there are other options out there. Most of them do cost money. There are some free ones, but they don't really work so well, especially if you want on-the-page filtering. I have got tutorials on how you can do things whereby when you click it, it takes you to another page. That's another quick free way to do it, but I think the grid builder is really, really good. I hope you're liking what we're doing. If you are, please hit the smash button, subscribe, and let other people know about this tutorial we're doing.